Hello, hello, hello. It's Joshua Fletcher here, Pursue Christian Living, and this is your encouraging word for this Sunday, May 7th, 2023. Hey, listen, God is so very good, and I hope that this message, this little encouraging word, encourages you in your walk with the Lord today. I'd like to share something from Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14, specifically about the cost of discipleship. The cost of discipleship, we'll look at verses 25 and following. And specifically, I want you to hone in on verse 28. Okay, I'm going to read this real quick. And you notice I got my artist shirt on here. Got my Hawaiian shirt on today, and I'm going to be working on a painting eventually. Probably not today, but maybe next weekend. I know it's a pretty big weekend for a lot of us. Next weekend being Mother's Day weekend and everything, but it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. I got some great plans ahead for that. So anyway, so that's just foreshadowing what is coming very soon. Okay, so here we are. Jesus is the great crowd of people are following him. Tons of people are following him. It says, verse 25 of Luke chapter 14. Now a great crowds were traveling with him. So he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoa. Jesus is speaking with a little bit of hyperbole here, but he's trying to give them an understanding of what it means to follow him. Lots of people are following him, and they all have different motives for following him, right? All of them have motives they may be not even aware of for following him. And he wants to help them understand what the cost of following Jesus is going to be. And he says this, and even if his own even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. The idea is look, Jesus isn't gonna, don't follow him just because you want to get fed. Basically, you got to carry your own cross. You got to carry your own burden on this journey with him, and there will be one to carry. And of course, he's going to carry a cross later. And then in verse 28, and this is what I'd like you to hone in on. For which of you wanting to build a tower doesn't first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, after he has laid the foundation and cannot finish it, all the onlookers will begin to make fun of him, saying, this man started to build and he wasn't able to finish. Now, a lot of people like to read verses 28 through 30 that I just read out of context. And they read it in the context of building a ministry or building a house or building a business or whatever, building your home, your family. Count the cost before you get started. Jesus is saying this in the context of discipleship, and it doesn't mean that using these verses to teach good stewardship is wrong, but what he's saying is in the context of discipleship, these are important. He says then, or what king going to war against another king will not first sit down and decide if he's able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If not, while the other is still far off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms for peace. In the same way, therefore, every one of you who does not say goodbye to all his possessions cannot be my disciple. So either way, whether you go to war or whether you ask for peace, there's a cost to it. And so the king who is going to pay a cost in the number of lives lost or a cost to pay off the attacker is going to lose something, right? And he's saying, look, if you're coming to follow me, okay, if you're wanting something to be built, or if you're protecting something, you're going to pay a price. And so then he says, the last thing he says, is now salt is good, but if salt should lose its taste, how will it be made salty? It isn't fit for the soil or for the manure pile. They throw it out. Anyone who has ears to hear should listen. So what he's trying to say is that as a Christian, a follower of the Lord, the cost is high. And we can trust Jesus in this because we know that he wouldn't give this advice if he himself hadn't counted the cost of making us disciples. And he did count the cost, and he counted it as worth the work, worth his suffering, his death, his resurrection, and all that has happened, worth it. He counted it worth it. The cross was worth it to him. His cross was worth it. You were worth it. But he counted that price. And what he's saying is, if you want to follow him, you got to count that price too. You got to count the cost of following him, and it's nothing less than everything. The cost of discipleship is everything. So he asks us to do that, to calculate the cost before building. Now, here's the interesting thing. The cost of building a ministry is the ministry. It is the result of, or lack of result of, the ministry. The same thing can be said about a business, your family, whatever. If you're a Christian and you're wanting to build something, and you're wanting to build it unto the Lord, and you're wanting to follow Jesus in the middle of it, you can't just do it halfway. I'm not talking about the building of it. You can't do that halfway either, because you build unto the Lord. But it all belongs to the Lord. That's what it means to be a Christian, is to surrender your life to Jesus Christ. There are some who teach that being a Christian is the way to gain, to great gain. And these verses prove that that's wrong, because Jesus is saying that to follow him and become his disciple means to be giving all of that up. Your will is given up. Your things, your possessions are given up. They're forfeit. But here's the thing. What we do receive, whether it's a big ministry or a big business, or your business taking off and having riches, or whatever we receive, it belongs to the Lord. But it's worth it to give all that away to God for what we get in return. We get him. We get the kingdom of God. We get eternity. And I remember coming back from the mission field, we were having a very difficult time. And when we came off of the mission field, we didn't have much, as far as stuff in our bank account. I was getting concerned that we weren't going to have the funds to just make it, from month to month. And I had to work at a place, and it was kind of hard and difficult, manual labor and difficult. And I remember one time, just in frustration, getting very upset with God, and I said, God, is all this worth it? Is it all worth it? Because we had sold everything and gone into the missions, and we had, gone 2 years, and then we got stuck here on the other side of the pandemic, and I was just feeling kind of forgotten and neglected, I guess, and abandoned by God. And I was upset. I was really upset. And I said, is all this worth it? I mean, we're doing all this. Is it worth it, God? Is it worth it, Lord? And he asked me a question in return. I heard him say, yes, Josh, is my gospel, is my good news worth it? Is it worth it? And that just struck me really hard right here. Yes, Lord, your gospel is worth it. If it was worth it for you, it's definitely worth it for me, right? And so yeah, I count the cost. That's not something you just do once. That's something you have to continually do, and it is not easy. But yes, we give it to you, God. Whatever the purposes, your purposes and plans are, we want that. We want that. And it's not my life to live, it's yours. It's my life to give to you, and so it belongs to you. And I like to think about that when it comes to my problems and my issues and things that I have, the things that need to happen or get done. Sometimes it's tough, but if it's a problem with the house or a problem with the car or whatever, I just remind myself and pray to the Lord. I said, this is your problem because these are yours. My life is yours, and my house is yours, and my car is yours. And Lord, just give me wisdom on how to steward these things well. And it's worth it. It is worth it. So I hope that was an encouragement to you. I hope if there is something right now that you're having difficulty with, give it to the Lord. Let him have it. He's going to do a much better job with it than you will. Let him solve the problems. That doesn't mean that you don't have responsibility and things the Lord would have you to do in order to get those problems solved. But here's the thing. If they're in his hands, they're much better than if they're in yours. And so just listen and obey and move forward and try to encourage yourself in him because he's with you and he wants you to succeed. Yeah. Okay, well, God bless you and have a great week. And I hope that word was helpful. See you soon.